The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
All right, welcome back to the Weekend Sports Wrap here with the Duckman, and we've got a special guest on, Troy Warner from the Paracave Podcast. Troy, how are you going?
Going pretty well, Duckman. Another weekend of football done and dusted. Round 9 is in the can, and we are slowly starting to see who are the contenders and who are the pretenders, and also a massive weekend of some pretty serious injuries, unfortunately, to key players this weekend.
Yeah, that's right. There has been a few big ones we'll be talking about shortly, but talking about another weekend in the can, that describes my tips there in the can because all these, what's going on with the blowout scores, all the upsets come this weekend. They decided to all happen at the same time.
Yeah,
seriously.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I think I only got 4 out of 8 this week, so 50% for me. I've had a last couple of weeks, I've had a shocker. I think 5 last week, 4 this week. You just cannot win tipping competitions with getting 4s and 5s. You need 6, 7s, and even perfect rounds.
Oh, 100%. So, like, normally by this time of the season, I'll be starting to go on a run of like 6s and 7s, or a couple of weeks 8. You can get that. But at the moment, I actually went for most of the favourites, and I'm pretty sure that I'll have to check for sure. I'm pretty sure I only got 4 out of 8 as well. Like, seriously. Like, the more you know about rugby league at the moment, it seems like the less likely you are you're going to get any half-decent results in the tipping comp, or either that or you're going wild upsets, and the wild upsets are actually coming off. So before we kick into the scores and the games, we'll start off with this whole referee thing with Casey Badger. So the Canterbury player, which player was it? Was Hughes, but ran into her. So she was running a normal line, right? But because the West Tigers switched the play and sent it across the field, effectively he's run into her and given her a bit of a shove and that sort of stuff, and now he's picked himself up. Sam Hughes got a $3,000 fine there. Now, I don't necessarily agree with it or disagree with it, but I think it's very weird compared to the punishment that Wayne Chisholm got back when he's playing for South in like 1991. And he did nail her. He nailed Jeff Weeks, TV Weeks as Mark Guy likes to call him, but effectively he still got suspended for like 10 weeks. That's a massive penalty. We obviously don't need that sort of penalty at the moment, but we need something more consistent what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's a very strange one, isn't it? I mean, that Wayne Chisholm one was a massive hit on the referee back in the day, and would have been a great tackle if it was on a player, and we definitely don't want to see that on referees. But I think sometimes these days some of the contact with referees are accidental and not intentional, obviously, but I think sometimes, I guess the referee has to be asked after the game. I would think anyway, look, did you make anything of that, or did that hurt you, or did that offend you, or what, or is it just play on? Because I think 9 times out of 10 they just say it's play on. I think I did hear someone say that Casey was in Sam's way and they couldn't avoid contact. But I mean, $3,000 fine, or a game suspension or 2 game suspension because of previous offences as well. That's a bit harsh. I think we saw a contact, wasn't so much contact, but I think it was Remus Smith got in contact with Belinda Sharp in the Storm Titans game as well, but nothing's been made of that. I don't know whether that was just because it was so fast and whatever, but it's just been splashed over social media. But we definitely don't want to see referees hurt in any way. Just also too, the abuse that Casey Badger copped on social media after that game it's definitely not warranted. I mean, we see referees, they've got a hard job as it is on the field, and it doesn't necessarily also help to being a female referee as well, because then it doesn't look as good as well. And look, humans make mistakes, and I mean, fans are entitled to be upset with refereeing decisions and referees, but sometimes the comments just cross that line too much, and it was a shame to see on social media the abuse that Casey copped.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Like, I'm just looking at one of these comments now. There's two comments here. So one said, Casey Badger should be and not take the field for a very, very long time. She's a disgraceful ref. And then someone else wrote, if Casey Badger is of NRL standard refereeing, God help the competition. The sport for both teams. Officiating has been absolutely rubbish. Has she actually got a call right so far? We're 25 minutes in. Like, really, expert? Like, happy for you to pick up a whistle, buddy. And you're going to have to start at ground level and work your way up, right? It don't just get to those positions all of a sudden. It doesn't just happen. You have to work your way up and earn it. So some of the fans are fickle as anything. Seriously, it's just stupid abuse for no reason at all in particular either. I think she's done a pretty good job. Same thing happened in rugby with Amy Perrott when Amy Perrott was refereeing Super Rugby games. She made one or two wrong calls. They're just mistakes, right? Anyone does it. But due to being a woman and first woman in it and that sort of stuff, people hammered her for it for like 7 years, 8 years and that sort of stuff. Like, it's just unwarranted. You don't see a normal referee get hammered for that. Well, you do see them get hit for stuff, but like, it's just, why are you doing it? What's the point of it? So seriously, the alternative is they don't have referees and the game doesn't happen, or the club has to provide a referee. So how's that going to help anybody?
Yeah, this is it. And this is what's turning young potential referees away from being referees of rugby union, rugby league, because they see the abuse that happens online to senior officials. And you're right, you're 100% right. If you don't have a referee, you don't have a game. So they do a great job. And yes, look, I've been guilty of calling out referees, but I don't call them out on social media and call them names and whatever. But everyone's got an opinion about their refereeing style, and look, as I said, they're human. They make mistakes, and look, they review each game, and hopefully they learn from those mistakes and move on to the next week.
Yeah, I've only been in trouble with referees before once, really. I've had problems with referees where they know who I am. May have been a habitual offender for doing things on the field, but the doing things to referees, I think only once I said to a referee, I thought his eyes were painted on his head, and when I got sent off and got suspended, and when I went to judiciary to ask me about that, said the referee wasn't listening to me, couldn't hear me, and actually could prove that because the referee had part of his ears cut off for whatever reason. So, and then said his eyes were painted on his head. Well, I couldn't medically prove his eyes were painted on his head, so I got suspended for 3 weeks and got a fine for that. So you'd normally pull your head. You do have to pull your head in, right? So that's the only time in like 30-something years of being involved in sport where I've ever done anything like that. And I regretted that because it was just stupid. It was just being stupid and blown up. But like, you can't do it, right? Or we lose referees. If you lose referees, the games won't happen. So it is that simple. So let's have a look at this injury crisis thing, and while we roll through, so who's on the injured list at the moment?
Well, there's a massive injury list from this weekend, especially for the Rabbitohs. Jai Gray went down. Cameron Murray came out. The news came out today, I think it was, of Cameron Murray. He's out between 4 to 8 weeks with a hip flexor injury. The big one for Brisbane is Adam Reynolds with a bicep injury, similar to Jamal Fogarty from the Canberra Raiders. So he's out probably for about 3 months, and he's hoping for a return in about late round 23, 24, late in the season. Ryan Pappenhausen as well went down on the weekend. Unfortunately, it was a small, I think it was a fracture in the same leg as he injured last year. So, but I think that's a 4 to 8 week injury as well. And
a minor operation, I think they said today, or something like that. Something about a minor operation for that.
Yeah, so there is a big injury list, especially from this weekend. Jesse Arthurs as well from the Broncos, a broken jaw, big collision there on a kick chase. He'll be out until about round 16. So, yeah, there is certainly Tessie New this weekend as well, injured an ankle up there at the Dolphins, so they've got a big injury list as it is. Nathan Cleary, he sat out this week against the Rabbitohs. I guess probably precautionary. He came back the week before, but he sat out the game against the Rabbitohs. He may be expected to come back again next week. Hamstrings are very touch and go, I guess, every week. So especially a player like him, you don't want to risk injury. Brandon Smith picked up a calf injury as well this week. So, yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of injuries at this time of the season. And I asked the question on social media, is it the old adage? Is it the players are getting bigger, faster, or is it the game, or is it just a coincidence that we're having so many injuries to big-name players this early on in the season?
Soft tissue injuries like quads and hamstrings, they're fatigue injuries. So they're not saying that the players are unfit. They're fatigue injuries and normally pushing it. So they are pushing it higher and higher and more and more and more. As they're getting fitter and fitter, they're able to perform at a higher and higher level. And now we're starting to see perhaps more of these soft tissue injuries. And because the sports science and that is better, people are trying to rush back earlier. So the thing is, forever and a day, I've had a stack of ankle fractures and leg fractures, hip fractures, knee injuries, tears, quad tears. I haven't torn my hamstring ever. I never used to follow any of the doctor's instructions either, right? So you're back like within a couple of weeks of these sorts of things like the NRL players, and you'd have recurring injuries again and again and again and again. Whereas if you actually went through what they recommend as the minimum standard, you're probably letting your injury recover how it's supposed to, and you can get back to do some training. You just can't do the full 100% exertion, sports impact, contact, everything that's involved with it. And that is, a big thing there. So Alex Johnston, they reckon he's got problems with his hamstrings or something too. And the same sort of thing, they reckon he's not Alex Johnston. What's the Manly winger's name? Saab. So I reckon he's got the same sort of things. He can perform. He used to train at 100%. I was listening to his former sprint trainer that he had talking about what he used to do, Jason Saab. And then he's changed what he's done this year. So he's not putting the same amount of work. He's putting different work into his body, but it's getting different outcomes now. So he's not built to get 100-metre intercept tries and that sort of stuff. So that's not how he's been training or anything like that. So they changed his training load, and hence it's why he got the injuries at the start of the season too. So I think they're moving things around as they do. They're getting different outcomes now. So, as they get bigger, but we're seeing some more severe injuries like knees, ankles and stuff like that. It's not a surprise in particular.
Well, one guy who is across all the injuries is, of course, the NRL physio, Mr. Brian Seeney, and he put up a post today of a 1 to 17 of the injured brigade, I should say. So check that one out on Twitter. But just have a listen to this side. Kalen Ponga, Ryan Pappenhausen, Herbie Farnworth, Clint Gutherson, Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow, Mitch Moses, Adam Reynolds, Tom Flegler, Jamal Fogarty, Tino Fasul-Malawi, Tyson Frizzell, Tom Gilbert, Cameron Murray, Luke Metcalf, Murata Neokore, Tavita Tola, and Corey Horsburgh. Now, that side there could potentially be a top 4 side that's injured at the moment.
Yeah, it's right. It's nearly a state of origin side, right? So
Absolutely.
With a few ring-ins in it. So it could be one of the all-stars teams for sure if they did something like that. There's some good players on the bench there out of injured guys. So, wow, I don't know. They do have to have a look at it. I think they might actually get to the stage where they play. People keep talking about, I do too. I wouldn't mind seeing the NFL the NRL be similar to the NFL with conferences and that, and get set up where you have more players. You're going to need to have more players in your squad if they do what I think. And they keep building the numbers up there, so I'm not sure how that would work, but they would be able to play more games and knockout comps and that. But you're going to burn players. You are going to burn players if it gets bigger, harder, faster. So that's what will happen. Guys will have shorter spans at the top. Once you get injured, guys that used to get injured back in the day, they'll start to get chronic injuries and have recurring injuries and stuff like that. So apparently I heard yesterday this is why Souths initially only offered Adam Reynolds a year, because they knew that by year 2 he'll probably get through that. Year 3 he'll start to have injury problems. So hence he's in year 3 now at the Broncos, and he's having these different problems. They also predicted that he'd be good for 12 to 14 games in year 3. So the Broncos have worked out that's about where the level he's going to be at as well. So I think he's going to be good for about 12 to 14 games, and his body just breaks down. So they don't actually need him through the middle part of the season. If they're going to be serious about being competitive, they need to be able to roll through and build past that, and down the track he'll be able to contribute towards the finals when they need to be winning games and stuff.
Yeah, well, that sounds interesting about that. There's also been a little bit of talk around the HIA as well, and why can't NRL clubs potentially carry an extra 2 players on the bench as well for like a specialist position, like a half or a 5'8", or potentially a fullback as well. And if they suffer a HIA, they can just go straight into that game as a replacement, because we all see how sometimes a specialist player gets taken out of the game or suffers a HIA from a tackle or whatever, and teams need to switch around players in positions, and they can look a little bit messy there, and they really suffer. So that's something else that's happening as well.
Yeah, that's right. We'll bounce into the games anyway. On Thursday night, the Rabbitohs hosted the Panthers after Jason Demetriou got sacked. Ben Hornby looked after it, and he should be in line to get sacked next because they were not good. They got smoked 42 points to 12. Ben Hornby probably should have had a run himself, because it was criticisms thrown out. I heard it yesterday on the radio. They said that South actually looked unfit, and Penrith got a 22 tap or something like that, and get who took the tap. They flicked it across to Isaac Tago, and off he went. He went and scored a try untouched, length of the field. So I can't believe that happened. I just cannot believe that happened. And they reckon that observation was that South looked unfit, like they couldn't keep up with the game for 80 minutes.
Yeah, well, look, the coincidental thing was that Ben Hornby made his NRL debut against the Panthers and lost 42 points to 12. And Thursday night, he made his coaching NRL debut and he lost to the Panthers 42 points to 12 as well. So he would not like to be playing the Panthers, whether as a player or a coach. But look, South, they really turned up at the start of the game, and they were really giving it to the Panthers. They scored the first 2 tries of the game, and both converted, so they had an early lead, 12-0, and half-time was only 18 points to 12. I don't know what happened in that second half, though, but they just fell away. I think, as I said before, they got a couple of injuries. Jai Gray got injured. Cameron Murray was injured during the game, I think, but they just fell away in that second half. And as you said, it was Dylan Edwards who took the quick tap and gave it to Taylor May, and he ran the length of the field and scored that try in the 62nd minute. There was a great flick pass from Taruva, who's just signed a 3-year deal with the Tigers, back in field to Luke Garner for a try as well. And unfortunately, the Rabbitohs, they just fell away in the second half. Latrell Mitchell returns next week, I think, so that's timely for the Rabbitohs with the injuries that they have to get him back. But I think it's still going to be a long season for the Rabbitohs, unfortunately. The Panthers, they'll probably get Nathan Cleary back, and they've stormed into premiership favourites.
Yeah, that's right. So I heard Blake Solly come out the other day after they dismissed Jason Demetrius. This was Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday morning, and nearly straight afterwards. It was either Tuesday or Wednesday. But he come out and did a presser straight away, so a press conference for anyone who doesn't know, and said pretty much we decided to dismiss Jason. He's a hard-working coach and all this sort of stuff. But Jason Demetriou dug his own hole when he said this. He basically said, a player coach happy to let the players contribute majorly to the outcomes of what happens with the team. Once he said that, it sounded like he didn't have control of the team, right? And that was the end result. Like Solly said, we need a coach who is their own man manager, and they don't need someone to micromanage people to some level, because you don't want to do that, but they're not getting decisions swayed by players, right? So they do their own stuff, they make their own calls, they live off their own bat. They feel like that perhaps the job was maybe, from sound of it, is too big for Jason Demetriou, and he'd done a good job, but they need to let him go so they can get a person that can be a controlling figure. Wayne Bennett is the name getting chucked around, but my good oil is telling me that Wayne Bennett will probably be taken over from Brad Arth as a Parramatta at the end of the year. So who also hasn't been dismissed at this stage. But a few people said if the Eels don't get into the finals this year and have a serious chance at it, when are they going to get a serious chance at it?
That's if you've got very good oil, that's probably good to hear for Parramatta fans. The other information going around too is the fact that the news that came out today for South Sydney fans anyway, that Lewis Dodd from St Helens has signed a 3-year deal to come over to the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Panthers fans will know him pretty well. He was the one who kicked the field goal in their World Club Challenge win last season, but some people say that his signing is maybe connected to Wayne Bennett. Look, I don't know where Wayne is going. The favourites are probably the Rabbitohs at the moment, as the media is all talking about. I think he's having a meeting with the Rabbitohs this week with Blake Solly, but we all know Wayne can throw curveballs in late in discussions or whatever, so he very well may end up at Parramatta. There's a lot of talk about Brad Arthur and if he can save his job or not. As a fan of the Parramatta Eels, I think if Parramatta do not make the finals, then I don't think he will be the coach next year. But it leaves Parramatta in an interesting situation at the moment with obviously the sacking of Jason Demetriou. South Sydney have a job available, and if Parramatta are thinking of sacking Brad Arthur or whatever, something like that, then they will have to act quick before South Sydney, because they may sign Wayne Bennett before they get the opportunity to. So it's an interesting situation what's going to happen at both South Sydney and Parramatta at the moment. But as I said, as a Parramatta fan, I think if the Eels don't make the finals, then I don't think Brad will be there next season.
Yeah, so the people that told me at Parramatta involved with people with the board, so not directly in the board, but they've effectively said if Wayne Bennett's already got a contingency plan, if that didn't come off either and Brad Arthur didn't get in, they are looking at Justin Holbrook as well, because he's in the assistant role at the Roosters. So they liked what he did at Gold Coast, and yeah, there's a realistic opportunity to get one or the other. They think they're pretty confident of maybe being able to get Wayne Bennett, because they think Wayne Bennett knows he's got to do a bit of a rebuild with South, whereas with Parramatta, he's got a bit more of a realistic chance of being able to get something, and he needs to add a few extra pieces to the puzzle to be able to make the side very competitive.
The one thing that came from left field, I think I saw the other day on social media, was Michael Cheika has put in his hat into the ring for the South Sydney job as well. So that's
that was interesting too. Huh? Yeah, 100%. That's interesting. So we'd like to see how that goes there, or if that goes anywhere. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But yeah, he'd be a serious contender there, Checker too. We'll roll on to the next game. So this is where all my problems started.
Yep.
These blokes were Sea Eagles, seriously. I'm pretty sure I banked on the Sea Eagles to get up over the Raiders here. And the Sea Eagles they're hot and cold, like I'm telling you. They're like a microwave with ice cream, frozen ice cream. Like one day they're going to melt it, next day they're not going to melt it, and it's going to come out still going to be hard. Well, if you're a Sea Eagles fan, you must be wondering what's going on, right? Because they got dusted 26-24 at home. And everyone tells me, oh, Manly's a fortress. Yeah, well, yeah, fortress burned to the ground at the moment because Canberra just pulled your pants down and spanked you.
Yeah, well, I think most people would have tipped the Sea Eagles to win this game, especially being at home after they had a win against Parramatta the week before at home. Canberra, a few injury players out. Jamal Fogarty, the biggest one there. But look, the Raiders, they showed heart and they came back and got the victory. They were 20-0 down at one stage and they came back from
Seriously?
Yeah, 20-0 down. It was 20 points to 6 at half-time. And look, I do not know what Ricky Stewart said at half-time, but they just came out and competed for everything, and they ended up, Elliot Whitehead got a double, and they got the victory. I don't know what's happening at Manly. They had Olakau'atu out suspended. DCE played after going to the judiciary, first time in his career. And look, Tom Trbojevic scored the first try, and he thought Manly were in control here, and especially at half time. But the Raiders, they pulled something out of somewhere and showed, as I said, heart and resilience, and got the win by 2 points, 26 points to 24.
Yeah, so I was listening to it on the radio after I got off the plane, and I thought, oh, Manly's going to do the Raiders here. This is the happy days. Happy days, my tips are looking good. And the Raiders just showed some resilience. They're showing a lot of it this year too, to be honest with you. Other than getting smoked last weekend, they've been pretty good most of the time, very consistent, and just getting the job done. And they did it again. This next game, seriously, what are the Broncos doing, right? So I tipped the Broncos, and they lost to Roosters. Not only lost to them, they lost 40-18, and sure as hell, Joey Manu had a good game. I bet you Joey Manu had a good game and starred for the Roosters.
Well, Duckman, you're up in Brisbane for the week and you missed out on going to this game. And as you said, it was 40 points to 18. The Roosters have now scored 100 points in 2 weeks. Brisbane, as I said before, Adam Reynolds, major injury to his bicep, and Jesse Arthurs as well, broken jaw. So they're going to miss, obviously, those two players, but especially Adam Reynolds running the show. There's been a bit of questions whether maybe Ezra Mann might go to halfback and maybe Tristan Saylor might go to 5'8", leaving Reece Walsh at fullback. We'll just have to wait for Team List Tuesday to see what happens there. But yes, your man Joey Manu, he did score a try in the 11th minute there, and Terrell May also scored a double. And an interesting fact here is all three May brothers scored tries in the first weekend of May. So we had Taylor May for the Panthers, we had Terrell score 2 tries for the Roosters, and over in the English Super League, Tyrone May score a try for Hull KR as well. So all three May brothers scored a try the first weekend of May, so that's pretty interesting there. But the Roosters, they're slowly hanging in there. They're showing where they're worth at the moment, and look, they've played the Broncos twice now, once in Las Vegas and obviously once in Suncorp. They're sitting at 6th place on the ladder. They've got the Warriors next week, who are struggling at the moment, and they're winning games at the moment and they're putting on points. So they're slowly getting into form, and they could be a top 4 team in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, I think they will be. Like I said, they're either going to be like top 2 or 4 or bottom 5 right there. Kind of diabolical like that. The Roosters have got the ability to put like 50 points on someone and cop 50 points too. I'm surprised that they've done it to the Broncos twice this year, beat them twice. The first time wasn't so big in Las Vegas, but they got the job done. So it surprised me a little bit. So I can tell you now, tomorrow Daily Telegraph is going to have a headline and a back page, May Day for sure, for 3 pictures of all 3 May brothers. So I'm getting in there, coining it early. Bulldog Richie, if you're listening, Team Richie, if you take it off me, I'll try to work out how I can trademark it tonight. Michael Chamis, if you're listening, don't take the thing, mate. I come up for first May Day, so there you go. Don't steal my idea. If they do, 100%. I coined it here first, right? You watch. It'll be in the Daily Telegraph either tomorrow or Wednesday's the next big day to write about rugby league. May Day, either the last page or second last page or something. I'll be talking about it. So it's going to do my head in.
Another player who had a blinder as well was Angus Crichton as well. We all know he had his unfortunate mental health issues at the start of last year, I think it was, or this year. But he's really rocketed into contention for a New South Wales origin spot. He's played there before, scored a double, and just the last couple of weeks he's come into form, and as I said, he's on the radar for a New South Wales origin spot. And also a shout out and congratulations on a great career to Luke Keary, who announced his retirement from the game at the end of this year as well. So I think it's 13 years in the top grade, 3 premierships, a Clive Churchill medal. He's played Origin, he's played for Australia as well, but he's called time on his career. So a massive clean out at the Roosters, well, not a clean out, but a massive exodus of players at the end of 2024 for the Roosters. Your man Joey Manu, Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, Luke Keary, Joseph Suaalii, and there's another one as well that escapes me at the moment. But
James Tedesco's going to get released. So.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he was the one. But Daniel Tupou as well, he is not confirmed leaving the Roosters at the moment, but he could potentially be one of them. So they're going to have a lot of money to spend, as we know that the Roosters always have a lot of money to spend, but they're going to have an extra amount of money to spend looking for players for next season, but they'll find players.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what sort of players they'll buy to cover these gaps. So I'll be looking for a prop. So I've seen some stuff come out now just the last couple of days about, well, we'll wait till we get to the Gold Coast, but about David Fifita and Penrith. So I'm interested to see where all that goes. We'll kick on to the next game here anyway. Bulldogs and West Tigers. So the Bulldogs, I tipped these guys to go up over West Tigers. Knew it'd be close. The Bulldogs have been in real good form, so I don't think they can win a comp, but I think they could finish in the top 8 for sure, like 6, 7, 8. I don't think they'll finish higher than 5th, but they look pretty good at the moment, right? Stephen Crichton's made a massive difference to them mentally and all of that. It's really brought a lot into the team, so they've been pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, he definitely has, and the Bulldogs have lifted as well, and I think at the moment they definitely are the forms, well, not the form side of the competition, but definitely the most improved side of 2024, and they're in 8th position on the ladder. I think 2017 was the last time they were in the top 8. So they're playing some good footy at the moment, and they're getting results. Next week will be a massive test as they play the Premiers, Penrith. So that'll be a big game for them, and especially a big game for Stephen Crichton coming up against his old teammates and a number of other Bulldogs players that used to play for Penrith. But yeah, you're right. They're playing some good footy, and they're playing, I guess, creative football as well. They're scoring some great tries. Bronson Cherry got another try on the weekend, and he's come back to rugby league, and he's been one of the best players for the Bulldogs. The Tigers, though, they didn't play that bad. They went into half-time in front, 14 points to 6. They looked like everything was in control. And I guess the Bulldogs just came out and just got the better of them. Aidan Caesar, he got put on report for a hip drop tackle on Josh Curran, and he is serving a 4-week suspension, I think it is, came out today for that one. Interestingly, he didn't get sin binned for that, but we saw Isaac Tungo score, I think it was a hip drop as well, and he got sin binned in that game at the start of the South Sydney game. So he gets a 4-week suspension for that one, so they'll have to find another halfback for next week.
Yeah, so I've seen the whole range. I'm not real happy with the name of the hip drop tackle at the moment. So Melbourne Storm helped bring in the KFC lunch pack meal names of the thing with the
Chicken
crusher
wing.
tackle and chicken wing and all that stuff. So I think they need to go for a few more KFC meals, like the large chips and zinger and stuff. Like maybe the zinger can be what the hip drop is. Give it some sort of other flash name and sell it. Maybe sell the names off to corporations so they can get a bit of money tied in with it. So they're thinking outside the box where their Peter Land is to get a bit of extra money. So anything that gets a bit more promotion than KFC, they'd be happy to throw their name in anything. They don't care. They're shameless. So it would be. I would get involved with it if I could somehow. So it can be like a Duckman bell ringer or something for like a headbutt or whatever. So anything like that.
It can be a Paracave podcast sponsor as well. Shout out to KFC.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, off the top of a Duck Media high tackle or something. So yeah, whatever need to do. The next game here, so the Titans, I said the other day they go close. I thought they could, I genuinely thought they could win. This was before they even had their first win. And they took it to the Storm too. They only went down 22 points to 20. And I thought they were a little bit unlucky not to get the win, really. But the Titans, how good were they? And David Fafita, as a side thing, is supposed to be going to have a chat at Penrith next couple of days. I don't know why Penrith would sign him for, because they got Isaiah. They're not exactly lacking it in locks and second rowers, but like, I don't know, like he's a good player. I wouldn't say no, but I don't know where you'd fit him in if he went to the Panthers, because they need a prop.
Yeah, well, firstly, to the David Fafita situation, I think he's meeting with the Panthers tomorrow. Obviously, the Panthers have lost James Fisher-Harris next year to the Warriors, so they've got a bit of money there free to spend on a front row. I guess you could get David Fafita to play front row at the Panthers, but I guess they would probably play him at second row because that's his position. But it's certainly a good handy pickup if they can get him to go and replace James Fisher-Harris. But it's an interesting one. He's got a bit of a clause in his contract with the Titans, something about round 10. I think he's got up until Thursday that he can make a decision on whether to take up that option with the Titans or not. But he's meeting with the Panthers tomorrow, and Matt Cameron, the CEO of Penrith, I think, not the CEO, but one of the recruitment guys there, I think he said, why wouldn't we have a crack at a player like David? It'd be wrong of me in my job not to do something like that. So that's how they replace someone like him. To this game against the Storm, 22 points to 20. Look, this was a really good game. It was Cameron Munster's 200th NRL game and Cameron Welsh's 150th as well. So a couple of milestones for the Storm. And we all know how the Storm perform in milestone games. They go pretty well, and they usually 9 times out of 10 they get the win. But the Titans have been playing some good footy lately. And I think it's no coincidence that the move of AJ Brimson back to fullback has been a wise one. And we've certainly seen him play probably his best football of the year back at fullback. So I think fullback is his position. Kieran Foran scored the first try, and it was a pretty good determined run from the halfback, and he got across the line, and he certainly did celebrate that try. 20 points to 12 at half time, so the Titans won the second half, but the concerning thing for the Storm was obviously the Ryan Pappenhausen injury, which we spoke about before. Also, Sua Fa'alongo, who came on and scored an absolute cracker of a try. I think he's 19, has only played 2 NRL games before. I think this was his 3rd game. He's looking like he's going to be an excitement machine. If he did go off with an injury, I'm not too sure how serious that one is. But if he's all right to play, and with Ryan Pappenhausen out for the next few weeks, he will no doubt probably take that spot in that Melbourne Storm squad at fullback.
Yeah, I would think that would be happening. So Nick Meaney's a good player, right? He's had to move around a little bit at the moment. He's a very good player. It won't be hard to, well, it'll be hard to replace Ryan Pappenhausen as good as he is, but it won't be terribly hard because the Storm have got a few really good high-quality players there. So at the moment, I think there's 3 sides. I thought the Broncos were there or thereabouts as well, with their players. If Reynolds out for a while, I'm not sure. But the Storm are the side that scare me the most, probably in the NRL, like as a Panthers fan. Then you got the Panthers, the Roosters. The Roosters look like they're coming in song, but they're doing it against sides that are not playing the world's best at the moment either. So I'd like to see what they do when they play against Melbourne and Cronulla's and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting there. So, yeah. Titans, I think they might get on a bit of a run here the next couple of weeks. They've got a couple of games coming up, like the Cowboys. Potentially they can get a win there against Cowboys. Then they've got the Knights at home as well, and then away to the Broncos. So they might get 2 or 3 of those, right? So that might put them in a good position to start moving up off the bottom of the ladder. I'm impressed with the way they've been playing lately, even though they've been having losses. I don't think they're very far from turning it around altogether, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, as you said, they've got the Cowboys next week at home. We all see how they play at home. And then they've got the Knights at Magic Round. The Knights didn't play Magic Round last year. The Titans beat the Eels there last year. And then a local derby, I guess you could call it, against the Broncos on a Sunday afternoon at Suncorp. So those games are very high scoring as well. And then they've got the bye. So a pretty crucial month ahead for the Titans. If they can get at least 2 of those wins and then the bye, that's another 6 points, and they'll definitely climb up the ladder. Then they've got the Rabbitohs as well, so after the bye. So, you know, a pretty important 4 to 5 weeks, and if they can get, as I said, 3 of those wins, maybe even 4, including the one against the Broncos, then that's 10 points, and that'll get you anywhere in this competition, as we saw last year with the Knights, how they got on their run and got those points on the competition ladder and snuck in, or didn't sneak in, they finished 5th on the ladder last year. So you're right, definitely the Titans could go on a bit of a run at the moment.
Yeah, definitely for sure. The next game here, so the Cowboys up against the Dolphins. I'm pretty sure I tipped the Cowboys too, so
Yeah,
I don't know what they did
too.
either. So, yeah, they were just, we're not really going to have too much of it. Want to save it a bit for a couple of weeks' time here. And they didn't really, I thought they could have played better, right? Todd Payton looked a bit peed off in his press conference, and the Dolphins got 28-26, so when I saw that result, I looked a bit peed off and wanted to throw my phone through a wall, so I wasn't very happy.
Yeah, I tipped the Cowboys as well, unfortunately. I thought back up there in Townsville, I thought they would get the win against the Dolphins, who, look, they just hang in there in games and then certainly turn it on in the second half. We saw that against Parramatta a few weeks ago now, and they've done it in this game as well. So they seem to be the second half team of the competition at the moment. But the Cowboys, they're really disappointing at the moment. I thought they could have won this game, especially being at home. They scored the first 2 tries. Everything was looking good. Half time, they were in front 22 points to 18. They only scored 4 points in the second half. Valentine Holmes' goal kicking was off, which is unusual because generally he's a very reliable goal kicker. And yeah, Jermaine Asako scored a triple in this game, and they're just a happy bunch of footballers playing for Wayne Bennett. They know it's his last year at the Dolphins, but they're just a real happy bunch and willing to play for him, and they're getting these victories, and even without these injured players, these injured stars. So they've got players to come back throughout the year, and whilst they can get wins at this time of the year before, obviously, Origin periods, because we see a couple of their players go to Queensland, that'll be good for them. They sit on 4th spot on the ladder, so nobody could have ever thought they'd be a top 4 side at this point in the competition at the moment. So maybe, hopefully, they can keep it going, and maybe they might be a top 8 side this year.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they had a pretty good run at the start of last year too, and the wheels fell off in the back end of the comp. So, well, not fell off. They just were lacking a bit of depth, new guys into first grade and this sort of stuff, and took a little while to get their gel going. And now they look like they're pretty settled. They know what they want to do, and they're getting the job done. So, they're doing it pretty quietly. So I'd say they're quiet underdogs at the moment. If they got in the finals, they might cause a few sides a few problems. Like they could actually be like a dark horse if they got into the finals to potentially make a grand final, because they play a little bit of off-the-cuff stuff, which is pretty good to see, really, as well. We'll roll on to the next game anyway. The Knights against the Warriors. I don't know what's going on there. I'm pretty sure I tipped the Warriors.
Yeah, I did too.
And the Knights got up 14-8. Seriously, my tips, like, I might get the spinner board. We've got one outside here. I might just put names on the board next week and spin it and just take whoever it lands on, right? So just as a G-up, and we'll see if that does better than my actual tips. Like, you never know at the moment. It could be anywhere. But 14-8, it's a good win by the Knights. They showed they can do it the Dow way. And what's happened is people think that Warriors are a bit of a myth at the moment. So I'm not sure about that. But they reckon they just look like they're not doing all the little 1% of things that count, not chasing down the kicks as hard as they did last year and all that sort of stuff. So, and that's costing them games.
Yeah, the Warriors are certainly struggling at the moment. I thought they would have won this game and needed to win this game to stay in touch with the leaders. They sit in 14th position on the ladder, so down there in 14th, and they haven't won a game for a month. They're on 7 points, and the top 8's on 10, so they are struggling at the moment. And as you said, they weren't doing the 1%ers. There were plenty of drop balls. There was a pretty contentious issue when Dallin Watani-Zelezniak went over for a try in the second half. Now, there was a crossfield kick put up towards his side. He and the Newcastle winger, I think, went up at the same time. Dallin caught the ball fairly and squarely, but obviously as they've gone up in the air in the same time, the Newcastle players tackled him. Dallin's dropped the ball over the line, didn't score the try, but it was a penalty to the Warriors for a tackle in mid-air. So a lot of people are questioning that rule and whether that should have been a penalty try. Well, look, potentially in my eyes, yes, it should have been, because he's tackled him in mid-air. You can't do that. Did that prevent him from putting the ball down properly? Potentially, yes. So it could have been a penalty try. So that could have been a little bit of a turning point in the game, late in the game, I think it was, and would have got the Warriors back into it. But Newcastle, they just showed at home. It was wet, atrocious conditions again up there. A couple of weeks ago it was even worse against the Dragons, but they hung in there. The Newcastle crowd got them back into this game and certainly cheering them on, and acted like a bit of a 14th man, and they nailed out a gritty win against the Warriors, 14 points to 8.
It was a good win, so they should be happy with that. They just look like they're just getting everything starting to come together now. It's funny because Adam O'Brien, he might have signed a new contract, but he won't be too far from pressure either, right? Because Newcastle have an expectation that they're going to be close to winning competitions too, because they haven't won one for a while now. So they'll be thinking, they're always waiting for the next Joey Johns or Seeks. They've produced 3 really good halfbacks over the years. If you look at it, people go, Justin Holbrook was good too. He was all right, but he wasn't that great, to be honest with you. Although Andrew Johns, Brett Kamali and Matthew Rodwell, 2 of those guys were very, very good, and the other guy was very good. So it was pretty good. So they're exceptional. They have the expectation that they're going to have sides that are going to be competitive and fighting for competitions for sure. The next game now, last game of the weekend, so not surprised with the result. A little bit surprised the score didn't maybe kick out more after last week. Sharks got up at home 20 points to 10 against the Dragons, so the Dragons showed some resilience. Shane Flanagan has turned them around. You can just see it, that they're going to have the off game from time to time. When they do, it's pretty bad. But overall, I think they've been pretty good so far this year, the Dragons.
Yeah, they've been up and down a little bit throughout the year, but you're right, Shane Flanagan has turned them around into a different side from what they were. And look, they've got a couple of wins this year, and They sit in 13th position, so they've had 4 wins this year, and they got flogged last week against the Roosters in the Anzac game, but this game they scored. They were leading at half-time, 10 points to 6 after Michaeli Ravalawa got a double. The thing that let them down was goal kicking. Zach Lomax only kicked 1 out of 2. And look, Cronulla, this game was amazing that it was even played at Shark Park, because way before the game was kicked off Sunday morning, the ground was underwater. So
yeah, I heard that there's like 2 to 4 inches of water or something. So yeah, they managed to be able to get the drainage working and get all the water off the field.
Yeah, I think a quick trip to, I think they said the CEO went to Bunnings and got some pumps and whatever and tried to get the water off. They did get the water off, but I thought, council run grounds, I thought they'd close the ground for the day, but obviously not for an NRL game. But look, local derby, there's always going to be close games, and unfortunately the Dragons just couldn't get the win. Jack Bird's 150th game, and crowd favourite for the Sharks, Tom Hazelton, he got another try as well, 3 tries in 3 weeks for the front row forward. So, and Oregon Kafusi scored the first try, another front row forward. So the front rowers at Cronulla scoring tries like they're just playing as if they're in the back. So Cronulla, they sit on top of the ladder. They're going pretty good at the moment, and look, some people would say they haven't played the biggest of competition. Next week will be a big test against the second place Melbourne Storm down in Melbourne.
Oh, that's going to be an absolute acid test for them. I think Alex Twell probably won't be happy with these guys scoring tries, because it took him about 130 games to get a try, and now all of a sudden these guys getting tries early in the piece. And, Alex Twell got, 2 tries in one game? That's all he scored in the 117 or 130 games in or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. And you got someone like Tom Hazelton who scored 3 in 3 weeks. So, I'm sure Alex will probably be a little bit jealous of that one. I think he's only scored 1 try in his career, so in 100-odd games. So for the Tigers, he'll be hoping he can get on the try-scoring list next week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Troy, so what do you got coming up this week for the Paracade podcast?
Well, a little bit of a quiet week this week. I didn't do a game day preview for the Eels game, so that'll be back next week because the Eels had a bye this week. I've currently got the Brett Plowman interview running, so former Brisbane Broncos, Parramatta Eels and Gold Coast Chargers players when he was back, when the Gold Coast were the Chargers back in the day. So an interesting conversation with him. He was part of the Broncos, not the first ever team, but he was part of the first ever season of the Brisbane Broncos, and also he was in the team that the Gold Coast Chargers made the semi-finals for the first time in 1997. So an interesting chat with him. But I'll have Team List Tuesday come out and my tips come out. So whether you follow them or not, it's another question. As I said, I only got 4 this week. So follow if you dare. So I'll have that come out. I'll have a game day preview of Parramatta and Brisbane and another interview out on Thursday as well. So plenty happening as well. And I think we may have to have possibly a quick 15-minute chat on Friday, as I'll be at CommBank Stadium for the Eels and Broncos game.
Yeah, I might try to work out how we can do that so we get something on. Otherwise, I might need to wait till a quick chat sounds good. Otherwise, I'll have to wait till Sunday. So try to get a preview in for all the games. So that will be the best outcome if we can do it. Troy, thanks for your time tonight. Really appreciate it as usual, and look forward to having a chat to you again next week.
Not a problem, Duckman. Thank you very much once again for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely my pleasure, Troy. So I'll chat to you next Friday.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracade